I'm Mark.
And I'm Cam. And this is RevTalks. In our previous 2 episodes, I talked to Mark about his role as CRO and his recommendations for winning over buyers. Today, I want to shift our focus to one of the most chaotic times for sales, the end of the quarter. What are the biggest mistakes you see sellers making in that final push?
The end of quarter has been the same for me for 25 years. The last 2 days of the quarter always seems to be the same. Hours of boredom punctuated by moments of sheer terror. And that seems to be the truth that every salesperson lives at the end of quarter. But the reason that happens is because usually we're going into the end of the quarter without all the best deals that are in our forecast. We haven't necessarily figured out how to get our customers to the point where they're ready to make the buying decisions that we may have forecasted. The best thing you can do is set expectations properly. The best way to do that is to understand the strongest deals you have and spend your time and invest your resources on those deals. Make sure that you know the business case that your customer is looking for, the outcome they're going to drive, and have a plan for how they're going to be successful. After that, you got to make sure you're lined up with the right buyers and have the right coaches and champions in the account that are aligned to the timeline that you're looking for. I think where I see folks get super stressed and have a challenging end of quarter, it's when they didn't have a business case, they didn't have a how plan, they didn't have champions or coaches lined up, or in some cases, the customer wasn't even ready to do a deal at that time. Those are all things we know and we can line up in advance. The best salespeople line those things up in advance, well before end of quarter.
Yeah, so what should sellers do? Like, how do they shift their mindset from, oh shit, to I'm gonna crush this when end of quarter rolls around?
Again, some of the best salespeople look and feel more like project managers than salespeople. And these days, customers, Gartner tells us 86% of buying decisions are made before they even speak to the vendor. They've done a ton of research. The selling is largely done by the time you get to that point. And the opportunity is really the best salespeople become project managers. Do they understand how to set the vision, hold people accountable, execute against the plan that's been agreed upon? In some cases, even have a plan with the customer. When we see people create a plan around executing their deal with the customer, oftentimes we see those folks be much more successful. They're in control, they have agreement on next steps, they have customer lined up with the timeline they're working on, and they're largely through a lot of the challenging negotiations, whether it's legal or product-related things that can bite you at the end of the quarter. But when people line up those deals in that way, we see a whole lot more comfort on both sides, the buyer and the seller.
Yeah, I love that. And I am curious, like when you're thinking about end of quarter, what's the best end of quarter moment you've seen? It doesn't have to be like the biggest deal, but maybe the most inspirational at the finish line.
The one that I remember the most is a negotiation that went on for 24 hours. It was certainly a big deal, but folks sat around the table for 24 hours to work through what this transaction could look like. We weren't successful until we found out where we were willing to walk away. And when we were willing to walk away, I think the customer finally realized they'd taken us as far as they could and that they were ready to close the deal.
So tell me more about that walking away. I think that's something that a lot of sellers are kind of scared to do. Is there power in walking away at end of quarter?
I think there's a lot of power in walking away at any time. Every company has to do business based on their values and based on the right way to help that customer be successful. And the worst thing a vendor can do is enter into an agreement where they can't make the customer successful. If they take a deal at a price that's too low, or they make promises they can't deliver, or their product isn't going to meet the customer's needs, you may be able to close the deal by giving on some of those things, but ultimately it's going to come back and bite you and the customer's not going to be successful. So knowing where you are in that process and knowing when you've given everything you can and that you're at the point where you need to walk away, I think that's very powerful. It lets our customer know that we've done our best, and also that lets the seller know that let everything off on the field so that they've done their best. And then sometimes you have to walk away. And
it really comes back to what you were saying before about how we want to try and help our customers solve their problems. So if you can't solve it and it's not working, at some point, there's not much else you can do. And it's putting the customer first and putting their needs.
Sometimes helping somebody isn't giving them everything they're asking for. People ask for things that aren't not helpful to them or that won't be helpful in service of their success. And look, we do these implementations and these deals hundreds and even thousands of times a year. Our customers do these once or twice in a lifetime.
Yeah.
And so we come with a perspective that says we know what's required to make it successful. We also know with a high degree of certainty what's not going to make it successful. And if we're in a situation where a customer wants us to do a deal where we can't help them be successful, it's ultimately not good for them or for us. And so in that case, we have to walk away.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Now I have one last question for you. I want to ask for your hot take. Why sales? Why do you do it?
My wife has really expensive taste, and I have to be in sales to afford that lifestyle. No, look, I was a philosophy major in college, and one of the things I loved about my time in college and now is thinking about other people and thinking about how to make other people successful. And I think sales is one of those professions that lifts people up. There's no degree in sales. You see people from all kinds of walks of life that are successful in it. I mean, it's a real opportunity to help people be successful in ways that they may not have thought was possible before. I find that to be inspiration. I love to be a leader, helping people to do things that they may not have thought was possible.
Love that. And we're so glad to have you at Salesloft leading the team as our CRO. So thanks everyone for tuning into RevTalks. You can watch every episode on YouTube.